In the last video, you watched me flip this boat upside down in my front yard with my excavator. And now it's time to take advantage of the only time that this boat will ever be upside down. Well, hopefully the only time. Things like welding in drain plugs, repairing some major dents, and prepping for paint. And I honestly can't believe how much progress we're finally making on this boat. My uncle just called me to check in and see how things were going on this boat project. And his advice to me was, Riley, don't get old. After checking everything for water tightness, originally I was planning on this afternoon taking this back up to the mountain, flipping it back over, and bringing it back to the shop to keep working on the job. And then Courtney and I took a step back and we realized that it is going to be so much easier to paint this bottom while it's upside down. There's still epoxy on most of the bottom of this boat. There are a few spots like right here where I sanded the epoxy off just to try to get a better idea of what was going on. But the epoxy was so well adhered and so tough that the sandblasters weren't able to get it all off. And then this area right here where you can see the black, the anti-fouling paint, and it's not very strong at all. Below the waterline portion of the boat, on the outside, we need to get to this point where we're comfortable saying it is 100% completely done. This is gonna be a terrible, miserable job. So I think it's gonna be best to just get after it and get it done. I think I'm just gonna start with the most miserable task, which is gonna be removing the rest of the black anti-fouling paint. There's really not that much. Good Monday morning. Huge shout out to Griffin, guys. Griffin came in over the weekend and he did like 90% of the grinding. So we got everything on the bottom of the hole, all the grinding of the paint done up to about here where I'm standing. So I still have this little front part to go, a little bit of sanding, a little bit of grinding, bunch of cleanup. I think by the end of the week, we're gonna be painting the bottom of this boat. I just spent like 3 hours sweeping the shop, leaf blowing the shop, dusting the shop, wiping the shop. I don't think I'm ever going to get all this epoxy dust off. I ran through the entire battery on this leaf blower twice yesterday, trying to get all the dust out of here, and it's still filthy dusty in here. If you have any good ideas on how to get a filthy, dusty shop clean that's got just this fine dust stuck to everything that doesn't involve having to physically wipe and mop every surface, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to know, how do you keep your shop clean? But it's time to move on. And I think that the next step on this boat project before we can put the bottom paint on is to put the offshore bracket on. That's the bracket that holds the engines here on the back of the boat. Now I need to figure out where it goes, because when I replaced that whole section of the transom, all of the holes that would have lined this thing up went with it. I'm also not convinced it was actually centered and square on the boat. So this is our opportunity to fix it. We will not be bolting this thing on, sandwiched between layers of rotten plywood and aluminum. I'm gonna be welding this bracket on, and I really can't understand why it wasn't welded on in the first place. I thought I was just gonna be able to take this bracket, clean everything up, move it into position, weld the whole thing all the way around, and I'm realizing that the gap on this thing isn't consistent. So I've got basically something's not flat. The back of the boat's not flat, the back of this bracket's not flat, or both. And we've got a big old finger width gap up there at the top, down to basically no gap all the way down here and all the way out here. The question now is, can I tack it all into place to hold it? Can I get it where it goes, tack it into place, and then drill all those holes? Or do I need to try to measure and drill that whole pattern in beforehand? That's what we need to figure out. Got the bracket right where I want it right now, and so I'm going to try to just get some tacks on it, just hold it into place so it doesn't move. I'm going to attempt to fill you guys in on what's been going on behind the scenes that I've been really struggling with. There came a point on this boat project, probably about 2 weeks ago, where I internally realized that there was no way I was ever going to pull this off, and I was in so far over my head. Legitimately, I was ready to give up on this project. I told Courtney we just need to take it to the scrapyard. Basically, the dream is over, and I was feeling like a failure. And then the anxiety started kicking in. And once the anxiety kicks in, things get really rough for me. A few years ago, I started using BetterHelp, and they're the sponsor of today's video. Since then, I've learned real tools that actually help me through hard moments just like this one, like stopping, closing my eyes, placing my hand on a cold metal surface and just taking a few deep breaths. It sounds so simple, but for me, it can just make all the difference. BetterHelp makes starting therapy so simple. You fill out a questionnaire and then get matched with a therapist in as little as just a few days. Communicate however you feel most comfortable: phone, video, text, and switch therapists anytime if it's not the right fit. So if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just need somebody to talk things through with, click the link in the description below or go to betterhelp.com/ambition strikes and you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy. Because sometimes the strongest thing we can do is ask for some help. Now, do you see all these gaps everywhere? We need all of that to be nice and tight so we can get a watertight weld all the way around that thing. I think the last thing we need to do is get this fully mounted, fully welded, and make sure those welds are watertight. Starting with figuring out how to get this gap out of it up here. So plan A that I came up with last night is I'm gonna set up the floor jack and try to just pick up here. We've got it tacked along the bottom and I'm hoping that it'll hinge like, and if that doesn't work, then I'm gonna have to drill a bunch of holes and use a bunch of bolts to try to suck it in flat before we weld it. Then I'll take all those bolts out and weld up all the holes. So I'd really rather not have to do that if we don't have to, but I think it's gonna be a surefire plan B. Okay, if this works, it's gonna be awesome. This is gonna be so much faster and easier than drilling a bunch of holes, but I also feel like I have very little faith. Oh, that's perfect, okay. I get that set up like that. We're just lifting the boat now. Did that tighten up? Oh, it definitely tightened up a little bit. This is now close. Well, I don't know. We're gonna have to use bolts. Question is, this is supposed to be level with the water. So if we zero our angle finder on that, the only other reference I have that I think should be level with the water is gonna be the water line that's painted on here. We're pretty close. Put another tack on it, then we're gonna let the floor jack off, and I think we're just gonna go to the bolt method. Anywhere that it's fully touching and where I want it right now, I'm gonna put a little tack. And then we're just gonna have to figure out how to keep working it. Everything is, I wish I had covered things up better, like with drop cloths or plastic or something. Everything is disgustingly dusty in here. So, clean freak, I think is kind of a harsh term, but when did I become such a clean freak? Now we somehow need to drill holes inside of here. And my only access is through these. I think that you guys are actually gonna be able to see better than me. Hopefully I can frame this right. See, I can't even drill straight in. I need to drill from the other side. How am I gonna do this? I'm not good. I'm sorry guys, I knocked you over. Okay, going inside, going inside. Oh, that's where I left that other tape measure. I was looking for that. It's 3 inches over on either side, and then it should be 5.5 down perpendicular. Right there and right there. Something's not right. 5.5, slightly lower here, higher here. There we go. Whoa, okay. Maybe I should start with a smaller drill bit. Oh, there's those safety glasses. Smaller drill bit acquired. Let's try this again. That's so close. Okay, we need to go this way just a hair. Okay, wonder what that means for that one. Am I brave enough to just say that it's gonna be right here? Whoa, really close. Almost got that one. It's actually like right here. There we go. It is tempting for me to want to add bolts in all of those holes to help like distribute the load and not rely just on the welds, and I could put mechanical fasteners in there until I remember all the corrosion problems that we've had on this boat from dissimilar metals, and I really don't want a bunch of stainless bolts going through this aluminum down below the water line. So no bolts, just weld. Ghost drill. I do think it's easier to work on this boat upside down when I'm going in and out, because all I have to do now is hop underneath instead of having to like climb all the way up and over and down into the bottom and then all the way up and over and around. So now all I have to do is get this on this bolt and tighten it up. And get all this goo off and get that washer off. Oh, a day like this, I could really use a second set of hands. Do I have any longer 5/16 bolts that'll still work? Like that one won't work. Those won't work. I thought I had a hole. I think put them over here. Those are 3/8. Oh, these are the ones I was thinking of, and I think these are the same length that I'm using right now. These ones are too long. Nope, let's figure out something else. That was not as dramatic as I wanted it to be. There's nowhere to put the camera right now, and I need to set the camera down. I'm just gonna have to turn this off and show you guys what I've done. Okay, that ought to work to temporarily hold that while I can get the nut on it. I think there's an actual art to just figuring out how to get stuff done with the things you have laying around the shop and not turning it into an all-day project. I have to do it by feel because once my arm is up here, I can't see. So you guys need to tell me what to do. Where is it? There it is. Okay, yeah, this is gonna work. Oh, nope, that's not on it. Okay, there we go, we got that on. And then can I get the nut started? All right, nut is started. Now I can take the vice grips off. do the same thing on the other side. This one has a washer I need to pull off too. If you had told me when we bought this boat that someday I was gonna flip it over and work on it upside down, I don't think I would have bought the boat. Hopefully that's gonna be enough to suck everything in tight. It might not be. Let's see what happens as we tighten this up. Let's check on the gap. That's still a really big gap. I can take these straps off now. These are just in my way. It's definitely sucked flat on the, oh, I could weld the inside of this too. That would make this strong. It's definitely doing something. Like this thing is getting closer to the right spot. Actually, I think we've got that gap to the point where I could probably weld it. I think this plan is working. It's a lot closer. The only other spot I still feel like I really need to get tighter is this corner right here. Oh my gosh, I hope this isn't right in the middle of a rib on the inside. Ah, it is inside a rib. Dang it. That also means I can't weld it. Well, shoot. Now what do? I just drill the hole through my boat that lands inside an internal rib. So it's in a place where I can't weld the hole back up again. So that hole I just drilled is inside this rib. And I don't know how to fix it because I need to cut a hole in the rib big enough to get the welding gun in and fix it. I'm gonna drill through. Now, when we go inside, we should be able to see where that hole is. Yeah, right here. Now, if I hole saw a hole in this, I'll be able to stick the welding gun in and fix that hole. Right? All I had to do was move my hole over a little bit and I wouldn't have been in this spot. Oh my goodness. Nice spot on the other side. My wrench must have slipped off because there's no way. Oh, the nut must have stripped. Ah, that's gonna be hard to solve. The cheese grade bolt failed. Do you have any idea how tempted I am to just start welding these gaps? All right, take 2 with a new bolt. You guys tell me, is it tightening up? Hey, it worked, all right. Don't let me forget to take that bolt out because that bolt will eat away this aluminum in no time at all. It's not even a stainless bolt. It would definitely cause problems. All right, just in time, the UPS man just dropped off the next piece that we need. It's crazy, but this boat didn't have any drain plugs. Even if you pulled this boat up out of the water, there was no way to drain the water from the bottom of this boat without using a bilge pump. I'm gonna be fixing that today using these aluminum threaded bungs. These are threaded 3/4 inch pipe thread. And we're gonna put 2 in back here, 1 on either side of the keel. That way we can drain water that ends up on both sides because that keel sticks down in there and would allow like 3 or 4 inches of water to remain in the bottom of the boat if we had just 1 on one side. So there's gonna be 2 of these back here and then 1 right here in the pod. I have an idea of where I wanna put the 4th one, but that's gonna come later. It's also a new tool day. It should be new tool day if you ask me. So this right here, I've never used one of these before. This is a hole saw that uses carbide. So it has carbide cutting edges brazed onto a hole saw. This is supposed to be awesome for cutting through aluminum. I've been seeing these online everywhere. So I'm gonna be trying one out today for the first time. I also noticed it's got a little spring for ejecting the plug. That's cool. I'm just gonna use this, this punch to make myself a little mark for the drill bit to follow. My unsolicited advice, especially when using hole saws on metal, don't use the pilot drill that comes in the hole saw to drill your pilot hole. Drill a pilot hole and then switch to the hole saw. They even make pilot bits for hole saws that aren't fluted, like don't have cutting edges. They're just basically hardened steel round shafts, and I prefer those. So you drill a 1/4 inch hole and then you switch to the hole saw. It just makes the whole process a lot easier. So here we go, drilling pilot holes. And just crossing our fingers that when we're done here, this looks straight and even. Pretty excited to see how this hole saw works. This carbide is supposed to be like the business for cutting holes in metal. So in case you missed it on one of the previous episodes, I'm not using any waxes or oils or cutting fluids when I do any of the cutting anywhere on this aluminum because I don't want to contaminate the metal before I weld it. So yes, like wax would be ideal here. I could put some cutting wax on this thing. It would make the cutting process way better. It would lubricate, it would prevent buildup, it would prevent galling. All this stuff would make the cutting way better if I used wax. But then I would have to figure out how to remove all of that wax before I did the welding. And I think that would just be so much more difficult than just basically dealing with going through blades and hole saws and everything else a lot faster. And to be honest, the aluminum actually cuts pretty darn easily. I don't really feel like I'm missing out by not having any cutting lubricant. Honest first impressions, I'm fighting the spring. I'm having to push really hard just to overcome this spring that's supposed to eject the little piece. In fact, I can't even do it now. It's gotten to the point where the spring is fighting me so much I can't. It's like cool in theory, but terrible in practice. Oh, it also just comes out really easily. I think it's meant to be able to come out. Try again. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Woo! And there we go. One whole sod. What are we hitting? What in the world? Oh, it has a stop on it. You can't actually drill all the way through. That's interesting. I'm learning a lot right now about hole saws, or this hole saw. Woo! I thought I lost my wrist there for a second. Have you ever used a hole saw in metal and not almost lost your wrist, or is that just a me thing? I should probably have the handle on this drill. I don't even know where the handle is. And I think we just took this boat from floating to sinking. Carbide hole saw. It definitely cut nicely, but I don't know that I would say that it was substantially better than any bimetal hole saw I've used. I'd be curious to see what it was like on steel, but given it was a great tool that worked really well, but was it worth the extra price? I don't know. I don't think so. There we go. Look at that. Just need to weld that bad boy in, and we'll have some drain plugs. Question now is, do I try to TIG it or do I spool gun it? I don't think my TIG skills are able to do that shape, so I think I'm gonna spool gun it. It's always really tempting to skip this step, especially on this shiny, brand new material. But aluminum oxidizes so fast, like within hours of cleaning it, aluminum is oxidized. And it makes all the difference sometimes when welding to just have the material be clean like this. I learned it every time I do an aluminum project, but I've especially felt like I've learned it on this boat, that taking the extra few minutes to clean can make a huge impact down the line on the welding that can actually save a lot of time, especially if having to grind out a weld or try to track down a pinhole. So, stainless wire brush is my friend. There we go. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is, I don't want these threads to deform when I weld it. So I'm worried that these thin-walled bungs and the amount of heat that I'm gonna put in them when I'm welding could distort and warp threads. So what I'm gonna do is thread this brass pipe fitting I have into the bungs to act like a heat sink and help keep the shape of the thread so that they can't warp. When we're all done, I could always run a tap through it, but I think by minimizing the distortion from the heat, we're gonna maximize our chances of having a nice, tight-fitting, leak-free plug in there. And before I do this is a trick I learned back when I used to build a lot of rock crawlers and build like suspension links that had fittings that are really similar to this. Just the little anti-seize can go a long ways towards being able to get this plug out again. Because I've had the situation before where once the heat warps the bung, it is so locked in that you can never unthread the thing you threaded in again. I'm using regular anti-seize, not copper anti-seize, because the copper anti-seize would potentially cause corrosion on the aluminum. Well, not potentially, it definitely would. Copper anti-seize corrodes aluminum, so no copper anti-seize on aluminum boat everywhere. In fact, I took my jar of copper anti-seize and I threw it away so that it would not accidentally get used on this project. That may sound wasteful and that may sound dramatic. I just did not want that situation. So no more copper anti-seize in the shop. Plug in the welder. Oh, we're almost out of gas. I hope we make it through the day. Luckily I do have a backup bottle. So I'm gonna experiment really quick before we get started. In normal MIG welding, we're controlling two variables at the same time. We're controlling voltage and wire feed. In pulse welding, we're only controlling wire feed because the voltage is staying constant and high, and the welder is turning it off and on and off and on and off and on at a really high frequency in order to be able to slow down the wire feed and not get just basically way too hot of a weld. I hope I explained that well. We have a lot of other settings we can adjust, but unlike traditional welding, the only parameter that we're changing on a regular basis is the wire feed. And right now I have it set at 280 inches a minute. So if we go into auto set, we can adjust our material thickness, and 280 would be close to the setting for 1/8 inch. I'm gonna turn off auto set so I can try to dial this in. So I'm gonna do some test welds at 280 and see what that's like and see if that's the setting I wanna try to use here. I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. Our friends over at Miller told me that they're planning on doing a software update for the Miller 211, which is it's like a $1,500 MIG welder. It's sort of their, I mean, it's definitely a pro level welder, but I think it's geared great towards people in the garage that just want to have a high quality welder for doing garage work. They're planning on releasing a software update to give the Miller 211 Pro pulse functionality, which is just going to be amazing. And so they're going to be sending me one of those machines with pulse to try out, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys what that's like. So this should give you a little sneak peek. If you've ever welded, if you've ever done spool gun welding on aluminum, think this is gonna give you a little sneak peek of exactly what can be possible. Where's my other welding glove? Why do I only have one welding glove? Maybe it's a new glove day. New glove day. These old gloves are getting pretty tired. Large. That is a nice feeling. I will use welding gloves until they are so worn out that like the fingers are crunchy from having been overheated too many times, like burnt, and my fingers start getting hot inside because the insulation is so worn. I will use welding gloves way too long. It just comes back from when I learned how to weld, like back in college. I didn't have money to buy welding gloves, so I would just use them until they were absolutely hammered. Okay, so let's see what this is like. Oh, it would help if I grounded this. So I'm gonna see what happens if I weld around the edge of this hole, because that's effectively what situation we're gonna have there. Aluminum is so susceptible to the fact that it's an excellent heat sink, and so the welding characteristics of it can change depending on what it looks like nearby. And if there's a big hole like this, like there is on those, well then the heat is gonna have a lot less surface area to dissipate off into, and the welding is gonna act way different. So let's see what happens if I weld right on the edge of this hole. Oh yeah, that's wild. Can you guys see how different this one is, where it kind of looks like we don't have good penetration down here in the root of the weld, and it kind of looks like the weld is sitting on top, versus this one around the hole where that weld really looks like it penetrated in. So I think I like this setting. This is what I'm gonna go with. Let's go weld the bung in. Hopefully it's watertight. Didn't mean to send that. Okay, so right here, we've got the keel that's got a big weld behind it. Basically, there's a lot of mass right here. So I think to get a good weld, so I'm gonna put some significant preheat on there to try to make sure that we get a consistent weld as we go around, because this spot where I'm heating right here, that's gonna take way more heat input from the welder to get a good weld than like over here where there's very little. See, it's like, you'd think that would be blasting hot, and it's really not that hot. All right, good enough, let's weld. I try to put a little tiny tack weld to hold it over here. That was much bigger than I wanted to do. Now I'm gonna grind my little tiny tack weld off. And then every minute I spend not welding, that spot I preheated is cooling. I need to take the gun all the way around. We're gonna try. Here we go. Okay, I know I got good penetration right here on this side. The rest of it, kind of think I need to grind out and redo. Okay, new plan. I think there are way too many variables here in material thickness for me to think that I'm ever going to make the MIG welding work. I would have to have it turned way down when I come around here, and then turn up, and then turn way up, but then as the heat starts affecting everything, then turn down again. I just don't think it would ever work. So I'm gonna try to TIG weld. I'm intimidated by this. It's not something I do very often. And you know what I just told myself? There's only one way to learn, and that's by doing it. So this is my opportunity. The cool thing about a TIG welder is I've got this foot pedal right here, and that lets me control the amperage while I'm welding. I can account for those differences in material thickness. All right, here we go. I did it! Look at that, guys. I just welded that bung in. All right, I have a theory I'd like to test. I am pretty sure that my smaller bottle of argon is contaminated. I don't like to jump to conclusions and blame the tools, but I switched to my other bottle on that time around. I had no problems welding, where every time I tried the TIG weld aluminum on this boat has been with the other bottle, and every single time I've had trouble. So I'm gonna switch back to the bottle I suspect is going to be contaminated, and I'm gonna try welding on my coupon. This little weld right here is the one I just did with the known good bottle that I've been running on the pulse welder this whole time. So let's switch back to the suspected contaminated bottle, and I'll weld right next to that spot, and we'll see what it looks like. Close that. That is closed. Try to use the crescent wrench the right direction, because there's always somebody in the comments addressing my incorrect use of the crescent wrench. You know what my opinion is? There's no correct way to use this wrench because it's always the incorrect wrench. No, I get it. There really is a correct and incorrect way. And in one direction, you're putting a lot of force on the jaw in the wrong direction. Basically, if you tighten a bolt, I don't know, I can never remember. Okay, we've got the other bottle of argon hooked up now. Let's find out once and for all. Is it the argon? This is the filler wire I was just using. This is the same kind of aluminum. Well, this is aluminum from the bottom of the boat. Like, this is a scrap piece of plate. So, nope, no problem. That's weird. Why was I having so many problems? I changed a whole bunch of stuff all at the same time because I was starting to get really frustrated. Maybe my stick out was too long. Let's try that.
There it is. That makes all the difference. Just how far my tungsten was sticking out of the cup. You learn something new every day. This is a process that I've always had a love-hate relationship with because it is time consuming and you have to slow down and you have to focus. And in many ways it can be really cathartic and it can also be extremely frustrating when things don't go right. And I was feeling like I just could not TIG weld. And all it was the entire time was that I was running too much stick out on my tungsten. All right, 2 threaded bungs ready for a stainless cap in place. Okay, last one right here. I don't know what the plan here was. It seems like this was threaded for a drain plug, but I don't know. Pretty poor execution if you ask me. So we're gonna drill this one out and add another one of our machine bungs. Looks good. TIG welder. Now I can just switch hands. I'm gonna have to weld left-handed now. That is the problem. That's what happens when you leave the bench and start actually working on a project. Nothing works like it does on the bench. Woo! We did it! Guys, we did it. And that one actually looks like a proper TIG weld. And now I just want to go TIG weld everything. It's crazy, like the whole boat. I want to do all of it TIG welding. It's crazy how just that little taste of success and how it's supposed to be can completely change your mindset. 20 minutes ago, I was throwing the TIG welder in the pond. Now, I want to TIG weld the entire boat. Hopefully this isn't a mistake, but following the success of that last welding, I actually want to add one more drain plug to this boat. Those 2 holes there are the previous drain plugs. So this is that offshore bracket, this is that engine pod. These 2 little dots here are the little plugs that I welded where we put the bolts in to kind of suck that thing in. I'm actually gonna drill one of those out and we're gonna put one more drain plug right here where one of these is. What that's gonna allow us to do is if that engine bracket gets full of water, we'll be able to take this drain plug out or maybe even install a valve on it and drain the water from that pod into this chamber where the bilge pump can then pump the water out, because we're not gonna have a bilge pump in that pod. The pod has sort of these plastic lids that sit on top. It's not super well sealed on the top. Water is going to get in there, and I want a way so with very little drama, we're gonna be able to drain the water out of it and out of the boat even when we're out on the ocean. So I guess what I don't really know is why wasn't it set up like this from the beginning, but I think I have a lot of questions about why weren't things set up like what from the beginning on this boat. So this seems like a prudent idea to me. And with our newfound TIG welding skills, it should be pretty easy. Let's put the camera down before I break my wrist.
Don't pull a Preston!
If you guys watched Preston Go's recent video, he totally almost broke his wrist and I was laughing the whole time because I've been there. Is that funny to say that I was literally laughing at somebody because they almost broke their wrist? I think maybe I've changed my tune on this carbide hole saw too. It's pretty sweet. One little spot left to go. I'm almost out of filler rod. Woo! All right, and we're there. Last thing before I think we can officially say we're done with the fabricating below the waterline. This boat, originally when it was manufactured, was not built with outboards. This whole piece was added later when the twin inboard diesels were removed in favor of outboards. And as you may have seen in one of our previous videos, in order to reinforce this transom so that it could take the force of the engines hanging off the back out here, well, they used like 1-inch thick plywood and extra aluminum, and ultimately it caused a ton of problems. So we need to figure out a new way to translate the force of the engines pushing on the back of the boat into the bottom of the hull, because ultimately all the friction results up in the front of the boat and on the bottom of the hull. So when the engines are pushing on the boat, we need that pushing force to go from the engines and from back here where the engines bolt on, through the bottom of this, and then up into this metal up here. And right now we have this step, and that's gonna cause a stress riser that's eventually going to want to cause a crack to occur basically right at the edge of this weld, right at that heat affected zone, right where that stress is concentrated, the edge of that weld. That vibration and that force, I think potentially could make this thing crack all the way around. And I think there's a really simple solution to this problem. I actually think it's really not that big of a problem. It's just gonna require a little bit of engineering and a little bit more work. Of course, the battery in the old angle finder is still dead. All right, there's our angle. What's it called? This is like angle finder inception. I'm using one angle finder that also has an almost dead battery to figure out the angle on the other digital angle finder that does have a dead battery. 0, 78, so that means it's actually 112. 112 divided by 2 is 56. I don't think this saw goes to 56. No, it goes to 50. Okay, welcome to the inside of the boat. So if you look carefully, right along
here, you can actually see the heat distortion from that weld that welds that engine bracket on. So this is the spot it would crack. If it were to crack, I think it would crack right here. So we want to translate the forces that are getting pushed on the back of this boat from right here on the edge of this weld into these ribs that support the bottom of the hull. And my plan for that is to add these triangular gussets, just like this, to each one of these ribs, like that. And I think that these simple little gussets, this is way stronger. So how many do we need to make? 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. I think that we can officially say that we are done fabricating on the bottom of this boat. Courtney, do you know how to paint a boat?
No, I thought you did.
This is way more boxes than I was expecting, but we've got all the supplies that we need to put our bottom paint on this boat, which means it's time to learn how to put on bottom paint. But first, Courtney, while it's upside down, it is gonna be way easier to fix and sand all of these dents and get this hole smoothed out. I'm not sure if we were trying to get every imperfection out, but I think if we get some of the major dents out, this is the worst one. I can't even imagine what it felt like to be in this boat when this happened. Was this like bam, 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 and then it did that?
So.
I want to try to push all of this out. Okay. So I brought a bottle jack, the infamous bottle jack that helped me put the dozer track back on. We need to use the bottle jack to somehow push the dent out from the inside. But I really don't have any idea how to do that. Okay, so, dude, that dent is huge. I'm gonna have to cut this out. Dude, this is like, I don't know, Courtney, we'll see. We'll do our best. We'll do our best and we'll cock the rest. So we're gonna have to push against that side of the boat, ideally on this bulkhead. Do you think it'll work?
Yeah.
I was supposed to build a railing out of this. Never did. And now, how do we attach this to the bottle jack?
You weld it?
Do you think that would work?
Yeah. Why not?
I was able to thread this up all the way. And this kind of fits over that pretty sort of snugly. That would actually kind of brace it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it doesn't bend it?
So it doesn't bend, yeah. We need this to be in line with this bottle jack or it's just gonna bend this whole situation. I think that's right though. Looks good to me. I'm gonna lay this down before it falls on me. I need to cut a piece of aluminum out of the inside that's in the way.
Are you okay?
Yeah, did you hear that?
Yeah.
That was just tension from that dent.
Wow. Are you gonna weld that back in afterwards?
No. And then I need a plate to distribute the load.
You're gonna use my limited edition plates?
So in case you guys didn't know, we are actually cutting up pieces of the boat and you can buy them over at ambitionstrikes.com. We're only choosing pieces that have like interesting corrosion and artifacts. Every dollar that Courtney and I earn through this channel, through views, through ad revenue, through sponsorships, through sales on the website, through our coffee business, all of that just goes right back into making more content. So if you missed that on the live feed a few weeks ago, we announced that we are selling pieces of this boat on the website. So you can head over to ambitionstrikes.com and you can buy yourself a piece of the boat. And basically what we're doing, or what I'm doing, is I'm going around and I'm systematically looking at all the plate we cut out and I'm cutting out noteworthy pieces. So either pieces that you might remember from a scene in the video, pieces where the corrosion is especially bad, basically just interesting pieces of this boat that have a story to tell. If you ever thought I was being dramatic, I was not being dramatic. These are big, these are deep. Look at this. And it's everywhere. It's on this entire piece. Thank you to everyone who's bought a piece of the boat so far. It's actually really helped us support this build and keep this project going. One of you is randomly gonna get this piece, which is gonna be the piece that I'm gonna use to distribute the force. So I'm gonna put it.
Wait, you're gonna use it and then sell it?
Yeah, I'm gonna use it against this end like that. I just hope it works. I'm feeling a little bit like, we'll see.
This might be one of those plans that's better in your head than it is in reality. Oh,
Do you need to hold the plate?
Yes. I'm gonna need your help.
Okay. Right.
here.
Right here.
Right there. Yep.
Okay.
You got it?
Don't smash my finger, please.
Right there, and
Right
I'm in
there.
the right spot.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, so it is definitely working, and it has definitely not gone too far yet. We have quite a bit left to do. See how strong this spot is? So this is right where this bulkhead is, and then it's also where this big rib is. It's kind of crazy. The boat had everything we needed right here in place that we needed to fix it.
Whoa.
Do you see how much?
Oh, I almost put earmuffs on. Whoa.
Do you see how much?
Oh, I almost put earmuffs on.
See how much that sprung back?
Yeah.
Like we need to go way more. So I want to try to push right
Yeah. I
there.
think you're right. You want to go right here, you said?
Right on the most bulbous spot.
Okay. Right there. It's definitely working. Whoa, it's working. It's working.
You guys look out for me and tell me if anything bad is happening so I know to move out of here. It appears to have pumped it out. But did it all just pop back in again? Or is it looking better?
It's looking a lot better.
Okay. It's definitely getting better. A piece of tubing here keeps bowing that direction, and so now as I pump my jack more, the tubing is bowing instead of it pushing the dent out. So I have a plan that's probably a really bad plan. This is a what I'm doing channel, not a how-to channel. Can you guys see this? It's bowing like an S. I have no idea if this is working and if I'm pushing that out or if I'm just wasting time. Gosh, I'm nervous. Okay, I'm gonna let the tension off and then we'll see where we're at. We might be calling this one good enough. Yeah, I think we're just gonna call that good enough. That actually worked a lot better than I expected though. I kind of expected to just pump it out and then it would just go boing, pump it out, boing. Is there any other really severe dents that I want to try to push out? I think that was the gist of it.
I think we're ready to paint a boat. No, wash a boat.
No, wash.
I'm so intimidated by all of the steps. And Riley and I keep calling the things different products, different names. And then I'm like, wait, did you mean barrier or did you mean epoxy? Or did you mean, what's the other thing? We need to wash the boat, then it needs to dry. Then we need to acid etch the boat, then it needs to dry. Then we need to do barrier coat. Then below the water line, we're gonna do anti-fouling. And then that's the bottom of the boat.
I was just reading the instructions on the acid wash, and they say, apply paints, primers, epoxy, or polish as directed as soon as possible after application, within 1 hour of applying this. Somehow we have to acid wash the entire boat, dry it, and then paint it within 1 hour.
All right, we're gonna do our best. So today we're just gonna wash the boat.
I think today we just need to wash the boat.
That's good news because I know how to wash things.
Whoa, look how much dust there is up there. That's why we're washing it.
Yeah. That actually looks really cool, but also I probably don't want to breathe that. Okay.
Do you trust my hitch?
No. You seriously, that's how you move the boat?
You don't trust it?
What if that slides off right now?
That'd be a bad day.
Then why are you... Does this mean I get to use my new pressure washer? Because that's exciting.
Maybe we soap it and then we scrub it?
Yeah, sure. Do we have dish soap?
Yeah. Can you put dish soap in the soap cannon?
I don't know. We're not gonna mess anything up by using dish soap, are we?
No.
Are you ready? That way. Whoa, look at all the grime coming off. Did you see that?
Yeah, the boat is like, it's filthy right now.
I'm not gonna fall, Mom. Bro, that's slippery.
I know, I've been welding up there for 2 months.
I'm not gonna get the FedEx man. This is super satisfying.
If you were a superhero, this would be your emoticon.
Mrs. Clean?
Mrs. Clean, the superhero.
Can you hold that while I hop down? Say that again?
I think you're probably good.
Okay.
Because when we acid wash it, well, let's get some, you haven't even put soap on the side here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna scrub it now with the broom.
I feel like it's actually getting shockingly clean.
I think so too. I mean, it should be really clean. We just used a grinder on the whole thing and took a layer off.
Yeah.
But then it got a whole bunch of dust on it. And then like any grease that was on our shoes or my hands, you know, I've touched it with my hands a lot.
Are we gonna have to be barefoot when we go up there now?
Bare feet. Bare feet.
Look how much
Yeah.
stuff is coming off. Oh, it's shiny up here now.
I just had a thought that I should probably hop under there with a light and look for leaks. Like, I mean, that'd be crazy if there were any, but I think we're good.
That wasn't too bad.
No, that wasn't that bad.
Looks good. It's
The
super.
question is, how important is it that we acid wash and then immediately paint, or can we acid wash
Today.
Can we leaf blow the whole thing off, acid wash the whole thing,
And paint tomorrow.
and paint tomorrow?
I know, right?
Spent some time reading the instructions and realized that yes, we need to put our first layer of epoxy primer on within 1 hour of finishing our acid etch. So we definitely don't have time to do that today, and then also continue laying our additional layers of primer, which means that tomorrow is paint day. I just spent some time, I went through all the instructions, I laid all out all our supplies. We've got our acid etch primer, paint trays and rollers, backup paint trays and rollers, gloves, tape, stir sticks and vests. Just I'm trying to have everything that we need all laid out so that tomorrow, once we get rolling, we can just like keep going. Wash, paint, 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 and we might even be able to get all of this done tomorrow. We'll see. Might be optimistic, but anyways, we'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow, and we're gonna paint the bottom of this boat. Can you guys believe that we're ready to paint the bottom of this boat?
I feel simultaneously like we are the most and least prepared for painting that we have ever been. Yeah. Shout out to Uncle Rich.